Sections of this video are sponsored. Not Tonight is a thoroughly monotonous game about working as a bouncer for some fascists and maybe joining a resistance faction, but I don't know because I was too bored to play that far. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Deleveled has a neat concept of controlling two mirrored blocks at the same time, but quickly overstayed its welcome. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Darksburg is a dungeon-crawling roguelike where playing a ranged character feels utterly awful, the maps are totally forgettable, and the most fun I had was in turning it off. I'm Holden, and I don't think you should buy it. Furi is a bullet hell boss rush with some great music, but with bosses which massively overstay their welcome and which I just don't have the patience to deal with. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Iris and the Giant has an aesthetic I adore, but the gameplay of a deck-building roguelike, so I'll play it for an hour or two and then never touch it again. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Moving Out has you moving furniture with the same amount of care as any other moving company, but I can't blame these adorable anthropomorphic labourers too much. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Valfaris is a heavy metal-themed action platformer that takes itself way too seriously, and while I can tell it took a lot of work to make it, that doesn't mean I find it any less boring. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Endless Space requires a lot of time to play and understand like any 4X game, but I did enjoy taking over different star systems a lot until I realised I had no chance of winning 6 hours in. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Underrail is an RPG which is aggressively not for me, where I find the world and themes interesting, but the combat honestly just too hard for me to enjoy playing. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Kingdom Classic is a strategy game about defending your newly founded kingdom from the endless horrors of the night, but it's incredibly difficult to come back from a wrong decision made early on. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Project Triangle Strategy was the pre-release demo for Triangle Strategy, and ended up just putting me off getting the full game, which I don't think was their intention. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Jotun is a Viking-themed action-adventure game that I think was average at best if it hadn't repeatedly crashed on me while playing, but maybe you'll have better luck getting into Valhalla than I did. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Outriders is a live service third-person shooter I got weirdly excited for before it came out, only to never actually bother playing after it released. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Outward begins with you penniless and with little time to pay off your debts before your house gets foreclosed, so if you're looking for escapism, this probably isn't the best place. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Wildfire gives you power over the elements and sets you free to burn your way through the world, rescuing friends and sneaking past enemies, but not really doing much to hold my attention. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Elex has some of the weirdest combat I've ever had the misfortune of playing, and its mix of sci-fi and medieval fantasy don't so much blend as they do clash, leaving the game with no real redeeming features. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Ageless feels like a less subtle, less well-made, and less interesting version of other better platformers, with even its unique features doing little to set it apart and more just to frustrate. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Cyberhook is another speed-focused platformer where my skills were quickly outmatched, but what few levels I actually managed to complete, I loved. I'm Holden, and I think you should buy it. Hotshot Racing is a technically decent racing game, but which left me entirely disconnected, with the only time I felt anything being frustration when something went wrong. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Flat Heroes is an addictive survival platformer, with my only real complaint being that sometimes the levels are a bit too similar. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Astray could stick to its strengths and be a great puzzle platformer, but decides to add intensely unfun boss fights and make itself a frustrating action platformer instead. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Shenzhen I is a puzzle game you think I'd be better at with my degree in programming, but once again, Zachtronics proves to make games I'm just too dumb to finish. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Fractal Make Blooms Not War is a fun, score-focused puzzle game set to music, but honestly, after a few tracks you'll have seen all it has to offer. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Lion Quest Infinity is a unique mix of visual novel and collectathon platformer, but half the game seems disjointed and the other half just isn't fun. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Special thanks to Dracula's Cave for providing the key to this game. Bug Fables The Everlasting Sapling perfectly captures the vibes of the best Paper Mario games, while also managing to just be a great RPG in its own right. I'm Holden, and I think you should buy it. Reventure is a surprisingly big adventure game for its surprisingly tiny cost. It's just a shame I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. City Skylines is a simulator I have more fun just messing around in rather than trying to build an actual city, and combined with Paradox's usual ridiculous amount of DLC, I'd recommend any other city builder. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Human Resource Machine makes me realise my grasp on maths is worse than I would like to admit, to go along with my consistent failure at programming, but I still enjoy it regardless. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Supraland has an interesting start, but quickly left me feeling bored, and for as much as I like the toy-filled concept, past that the world itself does little to keep me engaged. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Stellaris is another of those grand strategy games I'll play for 20 hours and finish with no idea what just happened, left only with the vague idea that I wouldn't do well in space. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Big Pharma is a medicine-making factory puzzler that I didn't know I wanted, and that now I'm itching to get back to, though I should probably make a cream for that. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Oceanhorn Monster of Uncharted Seas is a Zelda-esque adventure game which I enjoyed while playing, but never really felt the urge to return to once I'd turned it off. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Locke's Quest is a great mix of tower defense and action RPG, but only if you're playing the DS original, because the modern remake is broken, buggy, and practically ruins an otherwise fun game. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Tyranny was my first CRPG, so I honestly didn't know what I was doing, but its wonderfully realised world and compelling dialogue were enough to keep me going despite my confusion. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Popup Dungeon has a unique papercraft style and the gameplay is decent, but I found the characters to be wildly annoying and the cringe dialogue drove me insane. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Metro Exodus has a much more open structure than the prior games in the series, and seeing as I much prefer the linear progression of its prequels, it ends up being the only one of the trilogy I haven't finished. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Darksiders Genesis is a decent dungeon crawler, but the levels massively overstay their welcome, and it constantly feels like the controls aren't quite doing what I want them to. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Hellpoint constantly left me confused as to what I was doing or what was actually going on, but it's a fun Souls-like to put some hours into if you're craving a new experience. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. The Forest leaves you stranded in its titular forest after a plane crash and with a missing child to find, but clearly the most important thing to do is to build a nice little camp to live in. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Secrets of Raetikon looks very pretty and I love the bird, but the controls make everything feel incredibly sluggish and unresponsive. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Rust is a survival game I got for free after being told it was amazing, only for my entire experience just to be people hurling racial slurs at each other and trying to kill me. I'm Holden, and I don't think you should buy it. Nongunz is a roguelike I didn't enjoy the slightest, never feeling truly in control of my movement and filled with random bugs that did nothing but make an already annoying game even more awkward. I'm Holden, and I don't think you should buy it. Tower of Guns is an FPS roguelike about climbing the titular tower mostly through the medium of shooting things, and while I think it can be fun, after 10 runs I just didn't want any more. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is an action-adventure game which really feels its age now, but its odd world and strange characters have a lot of charm to help carry it. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Jalopy is about struggling to keep your broken down car running while you and your uncle drive across the continent, and isn't at all the fun, light-hearted experience I expected to get before I started playing. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Scarlet Nexus is an action RPG I didn't really give a fair chance, being more disappointed that it wasn't the Code Vein sequel I wanted it to be, rather than appreciating it for what it is. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Going Under has a great, if uncomfortably relatable world, and I love its sense of humour, but I just don't enjoy roguelikes enough to get to the end. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Iconfell is an RPG where you save by petting a cat, and honestly it's almost worth buying for that alone. Just be ready to spend an awful lot of time in menus healing after every fight. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Half Minute Hero Super Mega Neo Climax Ultimate Boy actually lasts a lot longer than half a minute, though it successfully manages to be wildly stressful for every single one of those 30-second segments. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Jurassic World Evolution puts you in charge of a zoo for dinosaurs, which sounds great, but its unbearably slow pacing means that I'd rather spend my time with any other entry in this highly specific genre. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Tome is an adorable game about taking pictures of just about everything you see, and while I love the world, it has an awful lot of backtracking which can get a bit tiring. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Lake had a demo I tried which ended with me arguing with the devs about its poor performance, but I guess they've forgiven me considering they gave me the game in its prequel DLC a few years later. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Special thanks to Gamius for providing the key to this game. Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin lets you make friends with monsters rather than hunting them, and while I haven't done much because I want to play the first one first, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to putting the time into. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. News Dash is a great rhythm game, though the music isn't exactly my style, and the base game is incredibly cheap, so it's worth trying even if you aren't sure. I'm Holden, and I think you should buy it. Environmental Station Alpha is probably best left to those of you who love the Metroid games, because while it's not bad, it's definitely not for me. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Murder by Numbers combines Picross with a murder mystery visual novel, which sounds right up my alley, though I do wish it leaned a little more on the Picross side of things and a little less on the kinda clunky investigating. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Bulletstorm isn't the most interesting PS3-era FPS, but the basic shooting is fine, and the whip's an at least vaguely interesting addition to the usual combat rigmarole, so it's probably okay to just turn your brain off and give it a go. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Loop Hero combines a strange mix of genres into an incredibly interesting package, but if you're not comfortable sitting through many of its titular loops, there may not be enough else here to keep you interested. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Paradise Killer has a style I absolutely adore, but such open-ended gameplay that I just get too anxious to play it, so maybe if you can relax a bit more than I can, you'll have a better time with it. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Nimbatus lets you build all manner of interesting drones, it's just a shame it quickly gets irritating to play and only gets worse once you have to engage with the combat. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Hammerting is a colony builder for dwarf lovers, but while it does feel good when a new build gets completed, the experience as a whole is just kinda boring. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Avon Colony is a perfectly decent colony builder which excels at nothing in particular, being thoroughly okay at everything it does, but I guess it looks kind of pretty. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Kato is pretty vague about what it wants, but its adorable style and completely unique gameplay made it a joy to play throughout my time with it. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Blue Fire looks great and feels pretty good to control during the combat, but its awful platforming challenges put me off playing in a way few games have. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Last Oasis is another survival crafting game which nearly bored me to tears, but at least this one has you building a car as one of the first things you do, so there's a bit of fun to be had just driving around the desert if nothing else. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Nowhere Prophet's post-apocalyptic world requires a lot more decision-making to traverse than you'll find in most other deck-building roguelikes, and while that can get a little stressful, it's also exactly what sets it apart from any other. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Out of Space technically has a single-player mode, but it's really not worth trying, so unless you've got a group of people ready to play with, I'd probably steer clear of this Space Custodian party game. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Factorio doesn't leave me satisfied like other automation games do, with its survival aspects just getting in the way of my enjoyment, but if you're looking for combat to go with your factories, I think this would be perfect for you. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Hacknet makes me glad I'm not a network admin, because I don't think I could remember any protocol I need or instructions I've written for more than about 30 seconds. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Yoku's Island Express is utterly adorable, but I don't think I've ever found a game so upsetting to play, entirely because I have no idea how to actually be good at pinball. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Galaxy absolutely nails the style it's going for, and it's pretty fun to play too, but I desperately hate all of those plants that slow you down more than anything else in the game. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Hard Reset is a completely fine FPS, not really standing out in any way at all. It looks fine, plays fine, runs fine, it's fine, and if that's all you're looking for, that's fine. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Orbital Gear is one of those games where you'll watch someone good play it and it's the coolest thing ever, only to touch yourself and realise you just aren't built like that. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Heaven's Vault is an adventure game with an incredibly interesting premise, which I'd been really looking forward to trying, but the unbearably slow movement speed put me off playing once I finally gave it a go. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Neon Abyss partners you up with dozens of pets to help you kill every enemy you come across, but the pets all feel pretty similar and the core gameplay is just like you'd find in any other roguelike. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Roki looks great and has a story I was really interested in, but not even Mr. Jotun can help me get through my hatred of adventure games. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Narita Boy has a style I love, but the near constant flashing gave me such a headache that I couldn't play for long at all. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. West of Dead has a strong sense of style that, despite how much I like it, doesn't always work in its favour, with its emphasis on heavy shadows making it hard to understand what exactly is going on at times. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Atomic Ops mixes farming sim with twin-stick shooter in a roguelite package and ends up being just as hectic as it sounds, and that's before the giant earthworm shows up. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Swag and Sorcery feels like a bland, grindy mobile game that you wouldn't want to play with all the microtransactions removed, and I think the only good thing about it is the pixel art. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Fort Triumph is a strategy RPG where I massively overestimated my abilities, failing my permadeath run almost immediately, so maybe if you don't do what I did, you'll have more fun with it. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Desert Child is an adventure with a style all its own, but sometimes that style can get in the way of actually being readable, leaving me consistently lost in its map. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Fantasy Blacksmith feels poorly forged, where I can see what they were going for with each stroke, but not a single one of them actually hits the mark. I'm Holden, and I don't think you should buy it. Katana Zero pretends to be an action game when in reality it's a series of puzzles, and it took me much too long to realise that, so most of my runs aren't very stylish at all. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. John Wick Hex is a kind of messy strategy game, but that doesn't matter anyway, seeing as the publishers have killed it, so unless you already own it, it's impossible to play regardless. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Ring of Pain is a creepy roguelike dungeon crawler that seems to want to punish you for playing it, be that with the hideous creatures or just plain stabbing you to death, and I'm sure the masochists out there will love it. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Tools Up is more fun than renovating a house in real life, but it's just as hard to do on your own. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Airline Tycoon Deluxe is honestly not a particularly good airline sim, but what it is one of my favourite games from my childhood, and that nostalgia carries it 100%. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Devil Daggers is a fun way to spend 15 minutes blasting all manner of hideous creatures to get as high a score as you can, but if you're wanting something meatier, you'd be better looking elsewhere. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Exopunks is a Zachtronics puzzle game which really upped the production values, but more importantly, I didn't immediately fail at, and honestly for me that's about as good as I can expect. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Freedom Planet is a Sonic game in all but name, and if that's your thing you'll probably love it, but it isn't mine in the slightest, though I'll admit at least that the music's pretty good. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Close is like Pikmin if Pikmin was set in ancient Greece and caused me immense hand pain, but despite that I had a lot of fun with it. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Steriden is a roguelike shmup, which isn't even close to a genre I'd usually enjoy, and while the pixel art is great and the music is decent, the gameplay itself did nothing to change that for me. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. BPM bullets per minute requires you to be good at both FPS and rhythm games, two genres I'm woefully terrible at, so while I think it's a cool idea, it's very much not for me. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Mobius Front 83 is a Zachtronics tactics game, which even to my own surprise I managed to be even worse at than their usual puzzle games, though don't let my lack of skill deter you from playing it. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Project Wingman is a satisfying flight combat sim, but it could be even more fun if it did a better job explaining how to actually play. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Babylon's Fall is a dead game, which is a shame because it deprives me of the joy of telling you not to buy it, though I'm going to do it anyway. I'm Holden, and I don't think you should buy it. Shin Megami Tensei 5 was my second attempt to get into the franchise, but I just can't get past the slow pace or punishing difficulty, so I guess I'll just continue to admire it from afar. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Timelie is a sneaky time-manipulating puzzle game, though I'm not sure we really need to watch every solution play out twice. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Wingspan is a brilliant board game and now playable in digital form, and for as great as that is, I'd still rather play it in real life. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Viscera cleanup detail makes you clean up after a variety of hideous and gruesome occurrences, but nothing will compare to the mess you make after slipping while carrying a bucket full of body parts for the 30th time. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Greek Memories of Azure looks and sounds fantastic, but feels incredibly stiff, with even simple platforming taking much more effort than it should, and the combat being fine if largely forgettable. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Maneater is the shark attack game of your dreams, so long as your dream includes having some of the worst combat I've ever played and incredibly slow movement that killed any desire I had to keep playing. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Mosaic is a surreal adventure with some truly beautiful moments that I can't say I understood in the slightest, but I was happy enough playing it just for Blip Blop. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Homeworld Remastered is a remake of a classic 3D RTS that I struggle to wrap my head around, but its space combat is a spectacle worth the price of admission alone. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Lords of the Fallen, not to be confused with Lords of the Fallen, is the first Lords of the Fallen game, not the second Lords of the Fallen game, and is a totally fine Souls-like just like its sequel, Lords of the Fallen. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it. Tales of Berseria is a JRPG with stilted dialogue and a darker tone than I expected going in, and while neither the maps nor combat are all that interesting, overall I still found the game pretty compelling. I'm Holden, and I think you should keep an eye on it.